Welcome to the second episode of our How to Discuss in an Interview series. In today's video we'll discuss the EU-US tariffs. So as always we'll start with our strategy here, and our first point is defining the key term, which for this video is tariff. This is a tax that's imposed on imported goods and services, and its main effect is that of protecting the domestic market. So when a government applies a tariff, it restricts imports by increasing the price of goods and services that are purchased from overseas. This makes them less attractive to consumers because they'll be more inclined to buying domestic products at a lower price. We'll then move on to the context, so the key facts of the story. The Office of the US Trade Representative proposed tariffs on $11 billion worth of EU goods. This is due to the fact the World Trade Organization found that EU support for Airbus in the form of subsidies caused adverse effects to the US. The USTR did include, aside from aircraft, also cheese and other products that could be hit by tariffs. So while the tariff situation is based around the competition between Airbus and Boeing, a lot of products have been included and will be affected by these tariffs too. The EU reacted by calling the sum greatly exaggerated and said preparations were underway to hit back. The proposed measures are relatively minor compared with the US's ongoing trade war with China, which includes $360 billion of each other's goods. We then considered the counter moves, so what could the EU do as a reaction? We've identified two main ones, and the first one is dialogue. And as the German Economy Ministry spokeswoman said, the EU is open to the US offer for dialogue in order to reach a fair solution. The second element is China's support. So on Tuesday, the EU and China agreed on a joint statement to present a common front to the US. This is important because the EU is China's #1 trade partner, and China is Europe's second biggest export market after the US. Both have been affected by tariffs from the US, and it's essential in your interview to mention that they have tried to present this united front to the US to counter this current stage. We then move on to the impact on stakeholders, so who's affected and how. Firstly, we consider the decrease in profits, which will inevitably harm the EU exports and thus the overall producers. By applying tariffs, as we mentioned before, the US market will be less inclined to buying EU exports since they will come at a higher price, but instead go for domestic products which will be available on the market for a lower price. The second stakeholders we like to consider are the two sides, so is there a possibility for an agreement here? The USTR did say that their ultimate goal is to reach an agreement with the EU, and the French finance minister said that it's in the interest of both to find an accord. So it does seem like both sides are interested in talking and dialogue to find a solution that is convenient for both. The third stakeholder is business, so this is quite a broad one, but it's the overall global economy. We've already seen a slowing growth in the market, and this tension and this tariff situation will undoubtedly harm both sides. We then move on to the future developments. As always, we think this is an essential part to mention in your interview, and it's where you can truly discuss the news story and bring in your own opinion based on the facts at hand. So we've identified two main solutions here. As we've seen before, dialogue or alternatively retaliation. So we know that both sides want to find a common agreement. However, the news came out that the EU is considering hitting back on $11.5 billion of US goods with retaliatory tariffs. On the other hand, they've also given the go-ahead for European trade chief to negotiate cuts in industrial tariffs. As always, we like to leave you with some suggested reading. We think this is essential to enhance your commercial awareness of the story. The first article is from the BBC, so it gives a nice overview of the whole situation and what's going on. The second one is the New York Times, because we think when there's an event that affects the global economy in multiple sides from different countries, it's great to have a source from that other country and see how they perceive the news story, if it's perceived differently to the ones in the Europe, so the newspapers in Europe. And thirdly, the USTR website, so the primary source here, and from there you can see their proposal for tariff countermeasures. Lastly, the possible question, so what impact could this have on the global economy? It's deliberately quite a broad question, but we think this will help you consider all the factors at hand and keep on thinking about this question, and through your reading you'll see that you'll enhance your commercial awareness, and hopefully this video will have helped you understand it a bit better. Always, we're here to make commercial awareness simple, and do sign up to our social media to get updates every day. Sign up also to our newsletter to receive all these news with our weekly commercial awareness briefing, our top interview topics of the week straight to your inbox. And thank you for watching. We'll see you at the next episode.